Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we will discuss limitations on NOL carry forward, specifically after an ownership change. The first thing we need to discuss is what is an NOL, net operating loss, which we talked about in the prior session. We had a whole session about what is NOL and the NOL carry forward. But real quick, what is an NOL? An NOL is when a company filed their tax return and they reported, you would report revenues or income, and you will subtract your deductions. So if you had $100 in revenues, you had 120 in deduction, you have an NOL of $20 or 20,000 or 20 million. It doesn't matter. Your deductions were greater than your revenue for that year. In other words, you have no taxable income. Great. What can we do with this NOL? We can carry it forward. We can take it and carry it forward. What does that mean? It means you have a deduction on your carrying a deduction in your hand that you will use in future years. Let's assume the following year you had revenues and you had deductions, but not enough to offset all the revenues. You could use this $20 NOL for future years as a deduction. So basically, it's a reserve deduction that you can pull in when you need it, which is a good thing. It's a deduction. And this is in contrast to a person. A person, if they don't have any taxable income for a particular year, they cannot carry over any losses for future years. For a business, the business is considered a continuation. So if a deduction you could not take this year and created an NOL, this NOL can be carried forward for future years because the assumption is the business is continuous. Okay, great. So what does that mean? Well, it means since you can carry it for future years, it's a good thing. But here's what could happen. How about we buy companies? Let's assume this is company A. How about company A is bought by company B? So company B, they have revenues minus deductions, and if they buy company B, they would have an additional $20 in deduction. Can they do that? Well, the answer is they can obviously buy company A, but here's what some people would do. They will do this on purpose to buy the NOL, to traffic the NOL. I'm going to give you an analogy before we proceed any further. Look at this car that's on the screen in front of you. It's a Mercedes, but it's in an accident. So the car is totaled. There's nothing you can do with it. If you want to fix it, it will cost more than its cost. Basically, it's like a loss business. But here's what you're interested in. You're interested in this VIP parking decal. There's this VIP parking decal. If you buy it, it comes with it. You just want this and you want to throw away the car. So what the IRS is concerned about when a corporation with net operating loss is acquired, special tax rule maybe restrict how much of those losses can be used after the ownership change. So what the IRS knows that what would happen if a company has NOL, net operating loss, there's a good chance some companies with positive taxable income, they will buy those companies to use their NOL. It's called the trafficking and NOL. So the government says, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. And I mean, think about it. Congress people, they were previously business people, so they know how this thing works, right? So say, no, that's not going to happen. What we are going to do, we're going to apply new rules. And these rules apply to loss corporation. So the loss corporation is the corporation that's losing the money, which is generally with the corporation with unused NOL carry forward. So you can buy that company, but guess what? You cannot use all the losses under certain circumstances. And the purpose of the IRS is to what? Is not to traffic NOL. So the purpose of this Internal Revenue Code section 382 is to stop taxpayer from buying corporation mainly to gain access to the unused losses, then those losses to reduce future taxable income. So simply put, you're not buying the car, you're really buying the VIP decal so you can use it when you park your car somewhere else. In other words, the rule is designed to prevent trafficking in NOL. So great, we have NOL. So now we need to know when this ownership change takes place, which is section 382 ownership change. Let's go ahead and dive into this lesson. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com.
You are here because you are serious about mastering taxation. Whether you are taking a tax course, studying for the CPA exam, or enrolled agent, tax feels overwhelming not because it's impossible, but because it's dense, detailed, and often taught at a pace that doesn't match the way you learn. The rules can feel disconnected, and the logic isn't always explained clearly. At Farhat Lectures, we slow it down. We explain the why behind the rules, break concept into simple steps, and rebuild your understanding from the ground up without assuming any prior knowledge. When explanation match your learning, everything changes. The confusion fades, the rules start to connect, and tax becomes manageable. If you are ready to understand tax with clarity and confidence, start your free trial at farhatlectures.com and let's build your tax foundation together.
Section 382 ownership change becomes relevant only if an ownership change occur. Now, what do we mean by ownership change? Well, ownership changes all the time. When do we determine we have an ownership change and as a result, Section 382 kicks in? Well, let's take a look at the rules and we'll define it. An ownership change takes place when one or more 5% shareholder increase their combined ownership in the lost corporation by more than 50 percentage point measured against the lowest ownership percentage those shareholders held during the testing period. Oh my God, that's a large definition. Let's take it step by step. First, define what the 5% shareholder means, then we'll define what the testing period is. So we have to define two rules. So first, let's take a look at the 5% rule. For the 5% rule, a 5% shareholder is any person or entity that owns at least 5% of the corporation stock at any time during the testing period. Now just ignore the testing period. Simply put, if you own more than 5%, you will be counted as part of this change. Now, what is the testing period? So if you own 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, you're not really counted. But during the testing period, we have to look at what happened to your change once it exceeds 5%. The testing period is generally the 3-year period that ends on the date of the ownership change. This includes that date. Let's take a look at this example to start this illustration. On July 1st, 20x6, someone increased their ownership by 15%. It doesn't matter what they have. Let's assume they had 0 and they went from 0 to 15. Are they a 5% shareholder now? Yes, they are because they own more than 5%. Now, once that happens, we have to look back 3 years. We have to look at the testing period starting July 1st, 2023. So now we look at, this is 20x6, July 1st. So July 1st, somebody increased their ownership by 15%. So what we do is this. We would look at the past 3 years. 20x5, all of 20x5, all of 20x4, that's 2.5 years, and July 1st, 20x3. So we would look back at the past 3 years and we will look at to see if there's any ownership change that occur at 35% or more, assuming those 35% shareholders with 5%, ownership. So we don't include if somebody changed their ownership from 1 to 3. Those don't count, or 2 to 4 don't count because they are not 5% owner. So since there's a 15% change, we would look at the past 3 years and see if there's any 35% plus. Why? Because if there's 35 plus this 15, there's a major change in ownership. Therefore, Section 382 will kick in. So the main idea, we would look at another example. If the required ownership shift occurs, the corporation cannot automatically use all if it's pre-change NOL without restriction. So this will restrict how much you could use of NOL. Why? Because there's an ownership change. Instead, Section 382 limit the amount of those losses that may offset income after the ownership change. Now, to make more sense, let's look at a few examples. Let's assume DEF Corporation is a loss corporation, incurring losses. On June 30th, Year 5, 3 investors, A, B, and C, acquire stocks in DEF Corporation. Okay, so it's a loss corporation. Investor A increased their ownership from 8 to 18. Do we count Investor A? And the answer is yes, because Investor A they have more than 5% ownership after the change, and the change is 20%. Investor B went from 0 to 22. Do investor B owns more than 20%? Yeah, more than 5%? Yes, they do. They went from 0 to 22. They own more than 5%. That's 22% change. Investor C went from 0 to 18. Is this a 5% owner shareholder? Yes, 18% is more than 5, and 0 from 18 0 from 0 to 18 is 18%. All ownership change occur within the applicable test period. And we just talked about the test period. It has to be 3 years from the last change we are looking at. So if we add up 20 plus 22 plus 18, 60%. What does that mean? It means this company with NOL, this loss corporation, DEF, now what they have to do, they cannot start to take older NOL in future years. Those NOL will be limited. How much limited? We'll look at the rule. An ownership change has occurred because the total increase in the ownership by 5% shareholder exceed 50%. Now, let's assume, let's assume we had an investor D. Investor D had 2% ownership and they increased their ownership to 4. We don't count investor D because investor D is not an ownership of 5% shareholder. Just so you know what the ownership is. So first identify the 5% shareholder, A, B, and C are. Then we would look at the change, and we looked at the change, and it's 60%. 60% is greater than 50. DEF has experienced an ownership change under Section 3A2. Limitation would apply to the use of the pre-change NOL. So this computation focuses on the increase in ownership relative to their lowest ownership percentage held during the testing period. So don't let the 5% confuse you. You can go from 0 to 4%, you're not counted. As long as the change puts you above 5%, then you will be counted. Let's take a look at the limitation. When the company with NOL has a major ownership change, and we just said it cannot use all the losses freely anymore. So each year the company will have to limit the amount of these losses that they can deduct. Remember, the only reason we bought this Mercedes that's useless is because of the VIP parking. Now we cannot use the VIP parking, at least we cannot use all of it. Maybe we can use it 5 times during the year, like if you're talking about the VIP. But in terms of the NOL, it has to be limited. How do we compute this limit? We would look at the company value before the ownership change. How much was the company valued at the ownership change? And we multiply that by a percentage. What is that percentage? That percentage will be given to us. You don't have to worry about it. It's the highest of adjusted federal long-term rate for the 3-month period. It does not matter. It will be given to you. But that percentage is given by the IRS. So you can only use a portion of these losses each year, not all at once. So if you don't use the full limit in a year, the unused portion, again, carried forward, it adds to the next year limit. So it will stay with you. Bottom line is the IRS is preventing companies from buying loss companies just to use their tax loss quickly. That's the whole purpose of Section 3A2. Because the NOL is a good thing for a company that's profitable, because you could use the NOL to reduce your taxes down to 0, and the IRS says, no, you can't do that. If there's a major change in ownership, which we just defined, then you are limited. Let's look at an example for that limitation. GHI Corporation is a calendar year had accumulated NOL of 2 million. That's how much they have, which is 2 million of losses that they can deduct in future years at any point. An ownership change on March 1st, year 3. So we're already told that was an ownership change. Immediately before the ownership change, the fair market value of GHI is 4.5 million. The applicable IRS rate for the relevant period happens to be 3%. Now, since the ownership did change, whoever buy this company cannot use the 2 million because there's an ownership change. Determine the annual Section 3A2 use of GHI Corporation pre-change net operating loss. Here's what we have to do. We have to take the value of the company before the change, which is 4.5 million times 3%. So the maximum we can use per year is $135,000. Think of it this way. This $2 million, it's not a trust, but it's like the IRS says, this is in a trust. You have $2 million of losses and you can release it at $135,000 every year. Now, if you have no taxable income, you don't do it. But when you have taxable income, you can release $135,000 of it. So the annual limitation on the use GHI Corporation pre-change net NOL is 135. Now, if you have NOL after, it's treated separately. This means that each year after the ownership change, the amount of taxable income that can be offset by the pre-change NOL is limited to 135. So from that 2 million, after you use it the first year, obviously you'll take 2 million and you will deduct 135, and that will be the remaining in that trust that you can use for future years. So if the corporation does not fully use the limitation in a given year, the unused portion carries forward and increase the limitation in the following year. That's all what would happen. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. Which of the following individual is considered a 5% shareholder for the purpose of Section 381? So we need to know who's a 5% shareholder in Section 382. Why? Because we have to look at those 5% shareholder and look at the change in their ownership. And if that change exceeds more than 50% in a particular period, then we have Section 382, which limit the NOL that can be used carried forward. Well, let's take a look at the answers. A shareholder who owns 4% throughout the entire testing or look back period. Well, it should be easy elimination. We're saying 5% shareholder. So if somebody owns always 4%, they're not going to be considered 5% in any definition measure. So I would say A is an easy elimination. A shareholder who initially owns 3% and later increased it to 6% during the testing period. Would this be a 5% shareholder? And the answer is yes. This will be counted and the change is 3%. So this shareholder is counted. Why? Because they exceed the 5% after they purchase an additional 3. Therefore, the change is 3. So we will count the change as 3. So between A and B, I'm going to keep B. A shareholder who owns 2 and increased it to 4, below 5, we're out. A shareholder who owns 1 and never exceeds 5, out. The answer is B. The answer is B. Now, what can you do if you're using Farhat lectures? You can ask the AI, Farhat AI, to explain the topic. So what's a 5% shareholder? Expand on the correct and incorrect answer and create a similar MCQ to help you test your knowledge. What should you do now? Whether you are a CPA, accounting student, enrolled agent, the best investment you can make is go to Farhat lectures, look at additional lectures, resources. Don't shortchange yourself. Invest in yourself, and God bless.